Time for another classic. This time it's the Tiger 1, that's classic enough, and it's the Tamiya version. I've kind of made probably at least 2 of these as a kid and a teenager, and they were a joy. So I'm looking forward to that joy once again. And the lid comes off easily. Look at that, loads of grey plastic. What more could you ask for? Bits, hull, wheels, stuff, turret. It's all there. So, very exciting. Just make a start, no mucking around. This is very interesting. What we have here, along the side there are various, there we go, we know what it is. There are various camouflages, colourings and markings, and this is one I've often wondered about. You often see German tanks in particular, and Russian very often, and plenty of others, but you know, they're 2 you often see, with winter camouflage over them. And more often than not, it appears that the winter camouflage is done over a dark base like that. So even if it's not, in things like the old photographs, it appears dark in comparison to the white. But here we are with tank number, S, can't even focus, S04. Why don't you have a look? There you go. The key bit is Russia, January 1944, and it clearly had the strong sand coloured base. Now, I've been thinking about doing that. Have I done that with the Panzer IV? Am I doing all these in the right order? If, let's hope I have. So if so, go back and have a look at the Panzer IV and how it came out, because that might give us an idea of how these things look. This one, I think, I'm probably going to do in the basic grey, just so there's no messing and we can get a real appreciation of this massive and powerful tank of legend. When it comes down to it, I know it's a tank and all, but there's an awful lot of wheels and suspension going on. Nice torsion bars. I like that style. I don't know if we can see in all the black. No, we can't really, because I've got the... Anyway, I've put them on one side. And a quick note just to say, I've done these 2 parts. Probably better if we see them in the instructions. The sort of front plate with the machine gun, an odd and unnecessary method of kind of putting the machine gun in, a little bit overly complicated. And then these, I'm not going to put the handles on because I'll knock them off while I make everything else. So the fragile bits will go on later. I'm starting to regret painting everything black. You can probably see the difference in colour. I've got that front plate on over the hull, and this part is waiting its turn to go on. All moving along swiftly, as tank hulls often do. You do get some funny choices of parts. Look at all these hatches and bits of detail that are moulded on, apart from that square, not including that section, and over there. Yet at the same time you get those 2 bits which just are a little bit of printed detail. Printed isn't the word, is it? And they sit there on the side of a piece of plastic that's already present. So all they had to do was put a couple of rings in it. Probably something to do with moulding, but I'd swap those any day for a couple of hatches that'll open or something like that. Whatever. It was a bit sarky, wasn't it? Meanwhile, there's the lovely Tiger turret coming along rather nicely. It is beyond distinct, isn't it? It's the one and only Tiger lid. Here's a good one. The stowage box that goes on the back of the turret. Wouldn't it be nice if those lids flipped open? But unfortunately all of this is one big sturdy moulding. But the bottom is a separate piece. What's the joy of that? Why not have those as separate pieces so you can open them up? I clearly would just... Right, what are we up to now? Well, there's the main part of the hull and the main part of the turret done. No wheels on, as you can see, and just the basic major parts completed. And it kind of wants to go together at this point, doesn't it? You want the turret on. Still keeping away from all the fiddly little bits, just so they don't get knocked hither and thither. And here we go, time to lighten it up a bit. Excuse me. There's the advised Tamiya paint in spray form, and there's the tank with it on. That spray paint and half stink. Anyway, so it looks alright. A little bit of black showing through here and there, just through a little bit of oblique spraying, which is alright, that's fine. And it's looking quite nice. I've got some distance through this now, and I've started adding a little weathering, and it's gone much better than I expected. Now, I did wonder if I would do this with a winter camouflage, but I'm content enough with things to say, okay, maybe not, let's just keep it plain grey. So this is where I'm up to now. All the major parts are on so that I can do a bit of that weathering, but I haven't got the wheels on. So that's going to be my next step. But there it is with a very basic structure, a very basic paint job. Wheels, and then wheels on. How about that? Well, some, not all. And the interleaved thing I do like, but it can be a bit of a pain, and apparently is a bit of a pain on the real thing. The back end of this model is really, well, disappointing to say the least. Nothing quite fits. First of all, I had trouble with getting these on both sides. In the end, I think I've got that one right. This one is a little bit wonky. Then these have strange fittings, which I'll show you in the instructions. They looked quite good visually, but didn't work out quite how I think anybody had hoped, and I can't quite find the page on the instructions. We'll come back to that. The thing is, you put them in the fittings and they can rock. There's plenty of play in them, so they'll go at any angle. And then these, well, that one fitted after a lot of fidgeting, but this one, it just wouldn't fit at all, to the point where I swapped them over in case I'd done something wrong. So a bit of heavy-handed muck on the wheels and some markings. That means I can do a bit more weathering and glue some bits on that might go over some of the markings, particularly there where you have the big cables. A quick look, because changes have been taking place rapidement, so to speak. A bit of highlighting and a bit of low lighting and a bit of rust and mud, and then some markings. So progress is definitely being made, and I'm reluctant to put all the last little bits and pieces on because it looks so, you know, straightforward, basic and powerful. Everything else is just going to be clutter. But I guess I should. I was expecting that to squeak and squawk. But there it is so far. I'm alright with that, I quite like it. It's almost come out as I had in mind. One little detail, a flaky transfer. I will be sorting all that out with some decal fix and see where that gets us. But anyway, this is it. I mean, I'd like to take credit for it and say, yeah, it looks great because it's all my own work. But it looks great because it's a Tiger tank. It's as simple as that, really, isn't it? Mixed materials next. These pipes are made out of a fabric, which is quite strange. There's the measurements for cutting it, and I'm not quite sure why they did that. Anyway, there they are on at the back, and they're all right. They work. Mixed materials is odd on a model because sometimes it shows up the scale of the thing, but seem to be getting away with it all right there. And by the way, you get an awful lot of spare parts, don't you? Some of them quite handy. Bits of track. And I forgot what it's called. Gun housing thing. Slightly different. Drive wheels. And the obligatory machine gun. Along with hatches. Exhaust. Forgot what they're called as well. It's getting late. Anyway, all that stuff. Probably put it to use somehow. So there we are, done. And it's worth saying at this point, if you've looked at the previous films of tanks, I found I was doing them bizarrely in a kind of chronological order, and therefore I've done this one now after the Panzer IV, because this one was being designed as early as 1937, whereas the Panther numerically comes after the Panzer IV and before the Tiger. But the Panther was rushed into production and then onto the battlefield as a consequence of encountering the Russian T-34. So this one is far older than the Panther, and you can see it in its design. The Panther, imitating the T-34, has sloped armour, but this one has very stepped armour, and they create something of a shell trap. The shell hits it and blasts straight in, whereas with the sloped armour, the shell hits and scoots off, hopefully. So this one is an older tank, and as I say, the design shows that. And it's a monster. It was designed, sort of commissioned by the German military as a heavy breakthrough tank. And the intention is that it's about 50% heavier than the Panzer IV. So this was a mighty powerful thing in 1937. And I know I've said it before, but think of what the British are producing at the same time. So there's quite a difference in concept between the sort of two schools of tank thought. But anyway, there it is, the mighty Tiger. And despite having a slightly dated design, it still filled Allied tank crews with absolute horror just at the thought that there was one near, which was known as Tiger Fever. And I think you can completely understand why. Now, here we have some uninvited guests. I was out getting some shots in the early morning light, and this one mooched along, and I thought you'd like to see. And she brought a friend with her, in fact her offspring, who just happened to be sniffing and trying to eat my foot. And there they go. And then there's this one, who completely ruined the concept of scale by peering over the back of the tank. Never mind, eh? Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be more soon.